the byproduct of selective engagement is that they're just taking away pieces of a puzzle of your messaging or of the value you want them to internalize. I'm Ben Morsom, and this is Engagement Decoded, where I share insights and tips on how to better, more effectively navigate engagement with audiences so you can stop guessing and fight for the attention of those you want to connect with. We've talked before about the 4 levels of engagement, as you may recall, and that, beginning with the worst, adverse engagement, next to worst, selective engagement, just beyond that, deceptive engagement, and then obviously what we're striving for, affecting engagement. But today I want to talk about selective engagement, which is actually the most common form or level of engagement that we see. And it's the one that you will recognize probably the most from the symptoms that we can look at as it relates to selective engagement. Some of these symptoms, and why it's called selective, is because we choose what to engage with and what to disengage with. And usually it is about, engaging because something in the moment is relevant to us. It might be a piece of information that's like, that's of interest to me. So I will engage with that. And then otherwise we will disengage, go back to, distracting tasks, off-tasking, as we say, maybe checking your emails or thinking about other things. So you've disconnected from what's actually taking place, on stage, for example, or in a communication. And the thing I like the most actually about selective engagement, although it is the second to worst level of engagement, is that it's the one that we can do the most with to improve, because it's about managing attention and focus of the audience that we're trying to engage, a little bit more carefully or strategically. We can move people up. We can start to recapture by doing very small things, managing attentional elements in content, managing the way we structure things, how we interact with an audience, for example, or using sound cues to bring people back to focus, incentivizing them to stay in a space. Because what I could say is, in a live event, you can witness symptoms such as this. You can see people get up from their chair and walk out of a room and come back in and out, that type of thing, because they'll engage in moments or presentations that are, again, as I've mentioned before, of interest to them. You might see them checking out their phones and then looking attentive, and then checking out their phones or talking to a colleague next to them about something that is completely unrelated to the content that is being delivered at that time. In the form of office communication, for example, somebody may choose to open a communication because it's of interest to them, it's relevant, or that they have nothing better to do, so they're an easier target to engage in that moment. Or they might not open an email because at the time or in that moment, it's not a priority to them, so we do not have their attention or engagement. In a meeting, in a business meeting, for example, within an office, in a boardroom, people might be just, working on an email at the conference table, and then, they'll look up and pipe in, again, because they have something to contribute, which is for their own engagement, or it is of interest to them. So selective engagement is very easy to spot. It's very common. We see it with most audiences that, for example, choose to be at an event versus have to be at an event. If you go to a conference because it's of interest to you, versus if you're a sales rep or an employee at a company meeting, you're going to likely be more engaged when you've made the choice as well. So there are all those variables that you can see, you can expect when it comes to selective engagement. Problem with selective engagement, because it's so common, and it's the most common that we witness through our experience audits, is that the dangerous thing about allowing that or saying, well, that's just the way it is, or the exception, is that we are hovering at a very low level of what we hope from the audience in the name of retention, or the behaviors that we want to see adopted from our investment or our experience, because in the end, the byproduct of selective engagement is that they're just taking away pieces of a puzzle of your messaging or of the value you want them to internalize. They're just taking fragments of that. So your audience is not going to be all aligned if that is a requirement. Or your product or information is not going to be as top of mind as it should be for your customers when they, leave an experience. And that's a huge waste. And there is, so much opportunity and potential to correct that, because that is the easiest level to correct and to see and seek improvements with. And, this is why I find selective engagement to be, a very frustrating level to accept. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Engagement Decoded. Do you want to learn more? Hit that subscribe button below and never miss an episode to learn how to increase engagement with your audience. I'm Ben Morsum, and thank you for watching.